I've got the look that drives to go wild. I've got the move that really moves. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Rewriters Room. This is episode 2. We're here. It's been a very, very exciting weekend for wrestling fans. Again, I'm Armand, journalist, podcaster, leader of the Otis Hive. I was looking for the Otis watch this past weekend. It hasn't happened, but that just means that Otis is going to cash in when the time is appropriate. I'm waiting for that. Fellas, how you doing?
Coolin'. This is CC, by the way, aka Big CC. I'm gonna come over with new Ks every week. That's how we do this. Tech music guy here again. If this is your first time listening, I know a lot of stuff, yet know nothing at the same time. That's what happens when you're a philosophy major. Really, really in love with wrestling. And on that Otis tip, bro, you gotta like talk to your man to talk to his girl, because what the hell was that worm?
Oh my God. It's like, I thought it might have been because, how do I say this in a politically correct way? Like the dimensions of the chest that she's bought recently, I don't know if that like allows for a worm. Like I thought it might, it seemed like she kept getting like caught on something. It was like she couldn't roll through it. It's like, oh, maybe it's just like when you have, I don't know, enhancements in certain areas that prevent certain enhancements. I don't know. I'm not a
Bro, when Son said I seen her TikTok, I'm not surprised. I died. I lost it. I was like, I had to replay it because you know what happened? I was actually like, I was watching the whole match. I was, because I was really interested to see that. I love like the way she came up with the look and everything. Like I was like, okay, like I love what's being said here. What's being said is like I'm completely aware of how I'm looked at or whatever, and I want to be taken seriously or whatever. And I felt it didn't feel cheesy or whatever, so I was on her side up until she did that damn work.
Yeah, it's like you won the match,
bruh. And I'm
like,
looking at her.
Practice this.
And she didn't. That's the thing. If you look at her, you can tell she doesn't get it. Like the first time she does it, she's like, "Oh wait, I'm not doing this right." And Otis is doing nothing to help. He's just cheering her on. And I'm like, someone has to stop this. And she does it like 4 more times. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Channing, how you feeling, bro?
Feeling good. I like to think of this phase as my NXT pre-ripped return. I think we see this a lot with guys in NXT and even SmackDown Raw, where like they come off TV for a while and then they get super jacked up. Like Ciampa, how he like looks like a totally different person, or like when Dean Ambrose came back real burly. So I'm trying to use quarantine as that stage of my life so I can make a big return, pop the crowd. I might have a heel turn here soon. I know I've had one in my personal life recently. Very big Razor Ramon, I'm the bad guy energy. So that's what I'm kind of going for here. But we'll see what happens. I'm still trying to work with the bookers and see what.
Amazing.
Turned up.
Well, these are your favorite rewriters. We are a part of the A Show network on RNC Radio Live. Y'all can tap into the A Show, hosted by J5 and Meals. The War Report will be back this Friday with Cyrus and some guests. So definitely look forward to that as well. But fellow, before we get into our main topic for the day, we do have some PPVs, pay-per-views to recap. I know I was tapped into both. I was watching Takeover while I was watching basketball. I was watching Summerslam. I think there was some basketball on while Summerslam was going, but I was really just locked in on Summerslam. And we also debuted WWE Thunderdome this past weekend. So a big weekend for the Federation. The match I'm going to get into for Takeover was Finn Thatcher. I thought it was a good match. I've been very intrigued by Thatcher throughout his NXT tenure. You know, submission guy, really tough. Finn coming back to NXT was big. He's had some good matches. But we're kind of – I've been trying to figure out, you know, what their plan is with Finn, because they haven't put the NXT title on him. There are talks of a draft coming up in the fall. And with Finn not really doing too much in his NXT run, aside from beating a couple people, he beat I'm trying to think who he beat. I'm pretty sure he faced Riddle. He faced
he beat Gargano, didn't he? Or
Yeah.
Velveteen Dream.
Dream, I think.
It was somebody I didn't
No, he
want him
lost
to
to
beat
Dream.
at the
Dream
time.
got into the North American title match. He lost to Dream.
Right.
But yeah, and that's the thing. Thinking of Finn's run, you can't really think of any big moments that have happened, so it's been kind of interesting. So I was confused at him beating Thatcher, because I thought him losing to Thatcher would be a pretty natural transition into this rumored draft that's happening. But he beat Thatcher, and it was a good match. I enjoyed it. Finn always puts on a good show. Thatcher's fun. But I'm really interested to see what they plan to do with Finn with this talk of the draft coming up. Like a lot of us were saying that the wrong guy won that match. What was the match that stuck out to you guys in Takeover?
You know what? I got a quick note on that match. You know what you just made me think of? Just like thinking about Finn's future and the fact that he like won that match and he has like nothing going on. I think that's gonna be. It would be really cool if that somebody from his past would be their angle to come to him. Because like their angle would be like you ran to NXT, you know, all this stuff is going up here on the main roster. You made it seem like you were coming here and showing them that this is really yours, but you're really just beating up on the little guys or whatever. Like, and like that win is like part of that or whatever. That would be dope if that's what brought him back up. That would be some crazy stuff. Some other match.
Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe has to come back for that smoke. Like, hey, bro, I'm on Raw. I ain't even wrestling. I'm on Raw.
I just ascended.
Just talking. Just talking. Are you scared?
Yes.
Get that little demon out of here, bro. Fight me man to man. Oh, you don't want me in these baggy swim shorts, bro. You don't want me with the red and black. You don't want to see me, Finn.
Yeah, bro, if Samoa Joe pop up and tell Finn Balor it's no longer demon time, I swear to God.
Yeah, bro, demon time is over.
I will buy.
They don't even need Joe to say it. They'll get Moro to say it. You know, Moro likes his hip hop rap.
Oh yeah.
So. Oh my gosh, yes, he would say it.
What did he say? It was like, it was such a wild Drake reference. It was like,
it was sicko mode.
Yeah, it's like we're officially in sicko mode. Yo, where? Like I can see him definitely pulling out like you know, Sasha won't tap because she's got that WAP. Like, what? Like, son, who? Yeah, like, he be pulling out the duffel when he during the takeovers. He comes out his Duffy with these references.
He like, really does. He goes like, crazy,
Morrow,
bro.
Who gave Morrow fucking rap caviar? Who is he hanging out with in the back?
Oh my gosh, bro.
That's it. What was the takeover match that stuck out to y'all?
So this is like, all right, so this is one of those things where it's like I think it's better to be honest than like try to say the right thing or whatever for blah blah blah, because being honest is like the right thing and it like is progressing you forward or whatever, because you're being totally honest and talk about what is. Even to this day, being raised, like I'm born in 91, so being raised on wrestling from when I'm wrestling, origins for me, like Vince McMahon poisoned my mind early, so like I still have to like make sure I'm like saying like when I'm watching the women's wrestling, I'm not watching it as like quote unquote women's wrestling. I'm just watching wrestling. When I was watching the Io Knox match, from the promo all the way up, there was a point like halfway through I was like, oh shit, I wasn't even thinking of this as a women's match. Like it just hit me. And I was like, it was at that moment that I was just like, these two and then a lot of these other women, that work that they're doing is so good. It's so complete. Everything that they do, because they have to do more than the men, especially with their costumes. Like you think about little things like that, all the little things that they have to do more than the guys have to do, and at the same time putting on great matches. So I just love that match overall. Just literally just watching the pace of it, the storytelling of it, just like over time, and just how like Io just hitting and just. I'm sorry, I can watch Io flip for like 30 minutes on a loop. So like that's cool with me. So I just love everything about that match, and I just love what it meant. It was just like another, just like, you know, pinning it for like women's wrestling. Just like, yes, like you should be paying attention to this. Yes, it's just wrestling, just the same as the guys. I should even stop saying the women's wrestling. Another one that I like jumping over at SummerSlam, Dominic and Seth. I really, really, really like that match. I feel like Seth, one of the things that's underrated about Seth is how much of a student of wrestling he is. When he's into something, that kid is a student of it. I'm saying kid like he's younger than me. I don't know why. This is just old man syndrome. But but he's like, he studies certain things, like there were like the Eddie callbacks with just playing around with Dominic in front of Ray. You know, just the, you know, bringing up the constant like storyline that is Ray having to deal with his family, like poking at the little things psychologically, like him and his family and his mom. And it's just like, man, like that on top of the fact that everyone was just doing a great job at both acting and wrestling at the same time. I was like, yo, yeah, like it's crazy. Like it's certain points where like you seeing what's happening to Dominic and you looking at Ray like, yo, are you really tight about this? And he's kind of giving that vibe, like he really might, like it really might not just be wrestling. So I just for me, I just love like a completeness of like the wrestling match where work is good and the storytelling and acting of is good. So that match to me, I just loved it. It was just classic. Just man, I just like that.
When Mama Mysterio came on that ramp,
I got scared.
Seth turned and looked at her.
Hey, dog. I said, hey, dog. Hey, dog. I know it's no fans, but, like, come on, dog. Like, you can't.
That's when you feel like you got to, like, reach for the tool. Like, hold on, relax.
Stop what you're doing. Like, Seth completely stopped what he was doing.
Yeah.
And looked at her. I was like, oh, my God. No, they're not. No, they're not Mama. Like, not like Dominic could get it. Ray could get handcuffed. Not the Mama. Like, don't do that. But, I agree. I was going to wait to get into SummerSlam, but – yeah, no, that was definitely a great match. We got two really great debuts from people who aren't WWE talent
for the brand,
and then Pat McAfee
for the brand.
And that wasn't the match that I was planning to talk about, but we could get into that real briefly. Like, you know, when Cole went on his show, everyone was like, "Oh, is that a work? Is that real?" Blah, blah, blah. Whatever it was, they found a great way to work that into NXT booking. And Pat McAfee, you can tell this nigga watches wrestling, loves wrestling, and wants to do something with wrestling at some point. That flip off the turnbuckle and then to it, like, he was doing things that some of our talent we might wish to see them do. Like, some of that stuff is cleaner than some of the talent has done it. So it's like, all right, McAfee, you got it, bro. And you know what's crazy? We were talking about it in one of my wrestling chats, my other wrestling chats. Like, people really sleep on punters in the NFL. Like, oh, you're just a punter. You're not athletic. Well, people also sleep on professional athletes in general because we see them on TV all the time. Like, is it really that shocking for an NFL player to come into wrestling and do what he's doing with all these wrestlers? Like, this nigga does it for real all year. To come do it for fake for one weekend, that's light. Like,
it's light work.
Especially when you love the brand and you understand the storytelling, kayfabe, like McAfee's promos were good. Like his
promos fire.
NXT, he felt like he belonged. Yeah. So that was dope. I ain't planning to talk about that, but I had to give McAfee flowers. Like, you could come back, bro. You could come to Survivor Series, but be on the NXT team.
I can't remember the last time I really wanted somebody to be on red. Like, I can't remember the last time like I saw someone and that was my first time seeing them and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to see them again. I want to see them again. Like, everything that I saw, like, because at first, like, I wasn't really paying much attention to it. So like when I found out like the match was actually gonna happen, I was just like, all right, they're gonna. I wasn't really paying attention to any of the clips or anything that came out. I just knew generally what it was about. And then I watched the promo and I was like, hold on. This nigga Pat, like, knows, like, he just intuitively knows some of this talk. Like, he knows what to do. And then, like, they get to, like, the match. He comes out. Even his entrance, I'm like, hold on a second. He gets in. He's talking beforehand. I'm like, oh, okay, this is that point where, like, he talks too much and then you see he's not that good. Then I'm watching him work. And I'm like, then like 2 minutes in, I'm like, yo, wait a second. Like, he's wilding. Like, everything he was doing, it was fundamentally good, and he was talking while he was doing it. And then one of the commentators made the remark that him and Corbin were like roommates at one point, and I was like, oh, he loves wrestling, and it's not just a fan. Oh wait, I forgot he plays football. It's like he was a punter, but like, no, he's an athlete. And then I'm thinking like when you're an athlete, that can translate easily to a lot of different things. And things like basketball and football are two sports where if you're in peak physical condition for that, you can, like, what can't you do? So, like, I'm like, oh, I'm thinking about that. And I'm like, wait, so if he loves it, he knows the storytelling, like, he actually did the work, blah, blah. Like, I clearly he did it. And then when he went to the Swanton dive, landed on everybody, sat up and said, woo, I was like, oh, I'm in here. I'm in here. Where I want to see it. I don't care. I need this now.
Because it's like 9 times out of 10, people, even like experienced wrestlers, will do like just like a body press off the top, where it's like, okay, like you commit. When he fully committed to like, no, I'm swantoning, like I'm head first rotating. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, he's about this action. Like he's committed to this. Like, oh, he's not
taking the bumps. Like he was like, he wasn't shy about that. I was like, oh, okay. Like he even got into like, I could tell he likes wrestling. Like I could tell he was like, all right, you know, like he got to that point where he was like, even as a punter, he was like, I want you to work, you know, work the leg. Like, and he was selling that. Like I was like, holy crap. And then he was selling the part where it was just like, you know, he couldn't really be totally cocky anymore, and he was just like, I hate you. And he just had to, like, he's just the character breakdown. Like, oh my gosh, how is he getting all of this so off the rip, bro? First match? What?
Yo, Chan, real quick, your thoughts on a takeover match before we get into SummerSlam?
So my thoughts is more of a lack of a match, so it'll be really quick. It's, for me, my favorite part of NXT used to be a tag division, like especially its height with like AOP, Sanity, DIY. Like I really just bang with their tag division is so heavy. Like, and then on to later like Street Profits, Undisputed Era, what have you. And just like obviously I assume it's COVID related because like, you know, Imperium is like foreign and whatnot. That's why they're not on TV as much. And I think they just lost today. So I guess while we're recording this will be stupid because I think they just lost Brizongo. But I just really wished, I hope that like Brizongo holds the title for a while till they kind of build up that division again, because I think they always do such a good job with their tag teams. I want to see more of that, even if it's just like bringing maybe some old like Lucha House Party down or something like that. Like I just think they should really take this time to like, okay, like a lot of our tag stars have either gone to the main roster, broken up, done whatever. We need to kind of really rebuild this division, because right now it's like Brizongo, Imperium, kind of Undisputed Era, and like that's it really. And so I think they need to build that back up. So that's really my big thoughts on NXT, is that like it was a good show. Teaser for later. My son Adam Cole really did his thing. He'll be important to my later thoughts on Shawn Michaels. Hey. But I really just wish we had more tag heat. That's what I'm wishing.
SummerSlam. CC got into his thoughts on Dominic and Seth Rollins. I'm gonna get into Asuka, Bayley, Sasha. Coming in, I was really intrigued at them choosing to have Asuka do both matches. I didn't think she would take both. Just looking at how it was going, like Sasha was beating her and she was beating Bayley, but I didn't think they wanted to move Asuka to SmackDown. So I expected Bayley to win and then Sasha to lose. And that's exactly what happened. But if you look at the little nuances in the matches, like in Bayley's match, Sasha comes at the end, tries to beat up Asuka to kind of, you know, weaken her for her match. And then during Sasha's match, Sasha's going to Bayley like, yo, help me, blah, blah, blah. And Bayley's like, not really fully committing to it, and then Sasha ends up losing. And then we get the rematch on Monday on Raw, and Sasha loses again. So I think that they're really building I think they're trying to do a slow burn, similar to what they did with Triple H and Batista. Like, they didn't break them up immediately. It was a really slow burn up until Batista was like, nah, you're a dub. And if you look at it, like, Sasha on Friday, during the Beat the Clock challenges, Sasha like cheered when Bayley lost her match. It was like, oh, I get to go last. And Sasha posted a picture on Instagram of her holding both tag team titles and the SmackDown women's title, not the Raw women's title, the SmackDown women's title. Talking about I'm beautiful. Like, that's Bayley's belt, bro. Like, that's real crazy of her to do. So I think that they're really putting a lot of good little nuggets for us to hold on to, and like, it's like, all right, we're expecting them to break up eventually, but how are they going to build to it and do it the right way? And I think SummerSlam, they really planted some really good seeds for what they can do with that storyline later.
They're such good storytellers, man.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I found out from this last run. Like, when I first of all, Bayley is my favorite heel right now. There's no one better. Like, because she's just on that like 8-year-old, like 9-year-old, like, you know, just mean girl in the park vibe right now, where it's just it doesn't need to be making sense. It's just like, you know, it's just like that. But she is selling oh my gosh, she's selling it so crazy. But like, their storytelling, for like them to include everything from past years and like to everything that they're doing now and stay consistent with it, like their story, like for wherever they're done, like when you go back and look at it from start to finish and how they told it and all, like how much depth they gave it, it's crazy. It's probably gonna be like one of the most classic stories in the WWE. I'm gonna say that. I think it's gonna be like those two stories.
Bro, you gotta think about it. Like, they've never done a 2-woman power trip. Like the two women with the main titles, they never had women's tag titles. So these are 2 women holding all the women's titles. Like regardless of the context, like people know the storyline now. They know what they're building to. But 20 years later, when you look back, you'd be like, yo, Sasha and Bayley had the women's titles and then the women's tag team titles too. Regardless of what you say, they were absolutely at the top. You can't take that away from them.
Yeah,
like
they were the whole thing,
bro. And it's like, and I get like there were some criticisms, like, you know, talking about where the women's division is right now, and them holding the titles like that or whatever. But for me, like, for one thing I know about wrestling is that it's just never going to be perfect for everyone on the roster. There's never going to be a time where everybody's perfect or whatever. So I just try to enjoy what is there, and just seeing them like this, it's just dope. Like, it just is. It's so, and I think it's the cruel side of me that thinks the fact that, like, if anybody else can have titles or whatever because they have the titles, you know, and like some women aren't getting the shine, that just adds to how, you know, like how evil, you know, it's supposed to be, which just makes it, to me, more fun, like, and more funny. Like, to me, that's just funnier. Like, it's like they're really hogging it. Like, they're really trying to rub it in your face at every moment. They're just showing up on random places, letting you know that, hey, by the way, we have everything. Like, in case you don't remember.
Yeah. And what's your SummerSlam match take?
Speaking of perfection, I'd like to spend a little bit of time, not too much, talking about the Hurt Business, which is, I think, the crystallized version. Like, when you look up like faction, that is what I want. I want one person who just talks a lot of stuff. MVP. I think I support, as a fellow bald person, I have to support everything Apollo Crews does. It's just in the contract. But I would like him to lose that belt to MVP, because I think MVP is, like, outside of Sasha Banks and Bayley, he's like the biggest thing, like, that Raw's got going on right now.
Yeah.
And so I would, besides that, and like Randy Orton, like, almost killing someone every week, it's MVP. And so I really like want him to drop the belt, because I really want Hurt Business to, like, start interacting with other factions. Like, I think it's cool, the random 3 people, but I think Hurt Business being able to finally get that belt off Apollo, because I think Apollo is now moving into the point where, like, you could see him in the Money in the Bank match and, like, see him on a little bit more singles runs. But I think the Hurt Business with a belt, you know, dealing with whether it's, you know, Seth and them, or it could be so even someone from NXT, like Undisputed Era, Imperium. Like, I just think there's a lot, especially with this underground, where they have, like, the Hurt Business is also, like, not even really just like a wrestling faction. They do, like, just like real fighting. Like, I think that is a cool angle where you could have just, like, whole pay-per-view matches built around, like, I'm going down to, you know, Raw Underground, try and get the U.S. title off MVP, and I have to fight through these different levels. Like, you could be on some Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter. Like, you can really video game it.
You book it, boy.
But, like, MVP is like the final boss. You got to get through these different levels. You could do it like 8 Mile, like, you know, telling people something they don't know about me. Like, it can really get crazy however, like, you really want to do it. But I really I love Hurt Business. I just see the stars for them. Like, even Shelton Benjamin, who, like, if you told me even like a year from like this time last year that you're really going to be invested in, like, what Shelton Benjamin is doing on a weekly basis, I'd be like, 2003 is this Team Angle? Like, why do I care about what Shelton Benjamin's doing? Is Charlie Haas with him? But no, it's because MVP is that good. He's made me care about Shelton Benjamin.
No, I mean,
he's fighting in dress pants. He's fighting in loafers.
Yeah,
but I'm interested. I'm into it.
The WWE has always been really good with trios, and I think this is another one of their really good trios. We can get, you know, Lashley's feuding with Cruz to come up, so that's the U.S. titles on him. What if MVP and Shelton say, yo, let's go get the tag titles off Street Profits? That's a fun feud.
That's such a black mid-card on Raw. That's such a black mid-card.
That's bars. That's bars
that's
going
so
at one another.
Crazy.
Like, that's just nothing but rap bars going at like that.
Turn that shit up.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
Yeah, I think with the way Drew and Randy ended, how good that was. We didn't see a Claymore or an RKO. We know that that's going to happen again. Keith Lee pulling up on Raw. Roman coming back. Like, WWE is in a really, really good spot. But Rewriter's Room, we're here to look back and change things. Now, so CC mentioned how in his first episode that he's done a lot of swanton bombs and his back is still hurt. I think this is a really good transition into who we are going to talk about today. We have arguably one of the greatest performers of all time. He calls himself Mr. WrestleMania, the icon, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. So he's been around for several different eras. I was introduced to him when I first started wrestling. So this will be an interesting episode for you guys, again, being the older wrestling fans who are around for a bit more. But we're going to talk about what would have occurred during the Attitude Era and the early Ruthless Aggression Era if the Hurt Back Kid's back wasn't as hurt. So I'm going to pass it over to CC, who is curating this discussion, man.
That was amazing, man. Yeah, the potentially healthy back kid. So my guy who trained in Mexico, got the name Shawn Michaels, came up wrestling, one of the youngest wrestlers out here, killing it, impressing people from the beginning. NWA goes on, Marty Jannetty. We all know how that goes. Next thing you know, he turns into, the Heartbreak Kid. Wish it was the healthy back kid, but this guy, he went on to do a lot, man. Like I remember him being like, so I was like always as a kid, I was just like, background to me, I was always like a skinny, smallest kid around or whatever. Like you could put me in any group of black kids and I'm immediately the youngest brother. That's just how I looked all the time. So like, I just like the little guy was like, I needed heroes like that when I was younger. So like seeing Shawn just like walk around and a lot like me, like where your personality and your ego and your brain is so much bigger than everyone that it feels like that almost physically, even though you're smaller than everybody. Like seeing that as a kid was really, really cool. And I saw most of that around the time where he like first formed DX with Rick Rude and Triple and China. And like I saw that a lot. And then like going in further, like unfortunately, like I only got to see like maybe like a year of that, but like I knew about the past matches and like my cousins had stuff on VHS, so I had seen stuff like the stuff with Razor Ramon. Like that was so I can't remember whose favorite that was. I think it was like Marcus's, but it was amazing, bro. But like just seeing all of that was like really amazing, and just like him coming up to a point where just working like he normally works, he can't really do anything anymore. It just kind of sucks. So I was just kind of thinking like what it would be like if he doesn't do that. So like he forms, let's take it from when he forms like DX. I think this is like late 97. I want to say, no, not 97, might have been a little earlier than that. But he forms DX, Rick Rude, China, Triple H, and they're going around and they have hilarious sketches. Like I have this on, my uncle has this on VHS and we used to watch this incessantly, bro. Like it was crazy. Like they are doing the funniest things in the ring, and then they're also winning matches, whether it's the right way or the wrong way, but it's just entertaining every time. And he just has this like larger than life personality. He's putting on great matches too. That's the other thing about Shawn Michaels, is that as much as his personality was a huge part of him, like his in-ring work was really, really, really good. Like that's a big part of like why these matches like mattered so much, is because you get to see him go into battle after talking so much or whatever, and he has to prove it, and like the way he wrestles reflects that that he was talking it at first, and he's like, oh, okay, I'm kind of here now, and then like you can see he's like, oh, well, okay, the guy's actually in front of me, but at the same time you see his expertise come out at times. So he was just a great worker, and I think it was Royal Rumble 98. He has the casket match with Taker, takes a backdrop, hits the casket. 2 herniated disc, 1 shattered, 1 completely gone. He has to go away for a little bit. He doesn't come back, but until to lose to Stone Cold at WrestleMania, which Vince did a great job of setting that up, because I had no idea he was about to quote unquote retire. So that happens, and immediately after, Triple H says, Shawn couldn't cut it. And I'm going back, and it's funny because I'm rewatching Raw. So like right now as we speak. So I had watched that episode maybe like 6 months ago, and I remember thinking, I was like, well, that's not good enough in an explanation. Like, what? Hold on, you just started a whole new, like you just got new friends because he lost once, bro. Like, and he obviously,
pre-internet, bro. It's pre-Twitter. There was no backdrop. It was like, I just say it. That is the law now. That's what happened.
Right. I'm like, it's Mike Tyson. Like, what do you want? What, like, but yeah, like so Triple H goes on to form DX and DMX. That's just the subconscious coming up. First favorite rapper,
faction.
Right? Oh my gosh! Wow. All right, I'm about to go put some crazy stuff after this. No, but like forms the reforms DX in a word, and then the rest is history. But maybe what happens if Shawn doesn't break his back? Because you got to remember at that time, this is when Rock is like really coming up. He's starting to get. I think around this time, I think it might have been a month or two after. I can't remember how many episodes after it was WrestleMania. But like Rock does the eyebrow thing for like the first time. Like he's developing that character that would go on to be iconic. Stone Cold's already Stone Cold. Undertaker's, all these Mick Foley, like these people are already who they are, so they're going to be fine. But there's some people that are about to come up. Somebody who just debuted around the same time that that Shawn Michaels is leaving is Edge. Edge gets there. Like we see him for the first time. Like we're starting to see people like that who are the people who come around in the late 98s, the 99s, 2000s, 2001s, who end up here for a long time. Like, we just saw Randy. Like Randy got there, in the early 2000s, early 2001. So we're starting to see these people come in. The early people of the Ruthless Aggression, they're starting to get here. I'm wondering, with Shawn's big personality, like, does he have problems with any of these new people? Do you guys see that as being a problem? Because that was the thing with Bret Hart, but it wasn't just Bret Hart that he had problems with. If you've read any of the reports, there were other people who weren't really fans of that guy. So
talk about problems.
Yeah, so I was wondering, like, so I'll go first. Like, one person I know he would have problems with coming in from Jump because he wasn't there at the time. Like, imagine Chris Jericho coming in and Shawn is still riding high. Like, he has no back problems. He's doing whatever, let's just assume everything's going well. Imagine what that's like. Like, Chris Jericho.
Raw is Jericho and the Heartbreak Kid? No.
Not happening. It's not happening,
bro.
It's not happening. Is there anybody else that you guys think that he might have had, like, backstage problems with that might have affected on, in front on stage? Because he was known to politic and people's careers would sometimes get stifled or kind of derailed. So.
I think, and I want to preface this up top, and this is not a popular opinion, so I'm ready to be dragged for it. Especially babyface Shawn Michaels just never did it for me. Like, I get like the matches where he's like just covered in blood and just giving it every ounce, and he does the pin where he just falls back. But it's just sometimes it's like, bro, this gimmick is so 92. Like, the sexy boy shit, like, dog, you 50 something now. Like, get a new theme, bro. Like, it just feels kind of like you're not a boy. You a grown ass man, dog. Like, change this. It's like, I love John Cena's music, but sometimes how I feel about, like, John Cena, you don't rap no more. Like, I love this interest, but like, this isn't who you are anymore. And like, sometimes I feel that way about Shawn Michaels. But like, to your actual point, I think the biggest issue Shawn Michaels would have had is with society, not an actual wrestler. I think Shawn Michaels as a character would not have aged well. Like, because you saw even Triple H, when he does DX stuff, it's way tuned down now. And I don't think Shawn would have done that. I think Shawn would have stayed at like a 10. I'm like drawing like penises on WCW cameramen. And like, once the internet comes around, they're getting Shawn up out of here. And I think that's what it would have got Shawn. Is I don't even think it would have been an individual wrestler. I think it would have been, because his gimmick is so great, it really has not evolved past like, I'm a good guy or I'm a bad guy. Mm-hmm. And I think what would have happened is that like the company around him would have changed. And so he would have been almost relegated, kind of like you saw Ric Flair at the end of his career, where it's like, all I'm doing is like talking and doing like historical matches. There's really no like new feud I'm having. Like, Ric Flair's not feuding with like, I don't know, like Edge or Jeff Hardy or something. It's like kind of like I'm an ancillary piece to something else. And I think that's what would have happened to Shawn Michaels. Even like you saw with that match where he was in Saudi Arabia, almost killing himself. It's like, Shawn, what are you doing? Like, sit down, dog. You can't do something moonsaults no more, bro. Like, that's over. Even like Brock Lesnar don't do that no more. Like, you done. And I think that's what would have happened, is that he would have been trying to run that back, and then the company would have been like, yeah, dog, like, Sweet Chin Music is cool, but we don't really like talk like that about women's wrestlers anymore. Like, that's just not what we do now. Like, it's kind of over. Like, it's like when your friends, like when y'all used to kick it in high school, and like you come back from college and they still like want to do high school stuff. Like, Triple H, like, bro, I kind of run an NXT now. Like, I don't really do that anymore. Like, I kind of got like a wife and stuff, and like
Now I need to see a buddy comedy movie where like Triple H is like the dad or whatever, and like HBK just lived on the road for 30 years and they got split apart and then they come together again. I need to see that.
It's like
WWE
Bad Boys, like Triple H is Martin Lawrence and HBK is Mike Lowry. It's like, Mike, like I'm not doing that no more. I got kids, Mike. I think that's what happened to Shawn.
I like that.
Yeah,
It's
hard for me to speak too much because again, like everything I'm watching is me looking back. But I always did have. I was never fully invested in Shawn Michaels, the babyface. The heel was believable. The tweener was believable. Like I think back to his feud with Jericho in like 2008, which is later than what we're talking about. But like Jericho was washing him, like messed his eye up, and he tried the babyface thing, but I wasn't really too invested in it. Like Sean's dope. He's an incredible performer, but I think the character work at that point would have needed some type of evolution. And so Edge, I think Edge would have been cool coming in. I'm still kind of getting familiar with that time period. I think Shawn and Jericho, again, looking at their work in 2008, like in Jericho earlier on was just this figure, he just like coming in and winning the undisputed title. Like Jericho is just different. So I think Jericho and Shawn would have been real fun back then. And maybe if they could have figured something out with Jericho and Eddie when a bit later on, like if they were on the same shows, I think that would have been cool. But yeah, I don't know. I've always had really interesting feelings about I'm sorry, not Jericho, Shawn Michaels. Yeah, I've just had really interesting feelings about Shawn Michaels as a babyface / heel. I think he's more compelling as a heel. I think DX fit his character perfectly, and then him by himself doing solo heel work was really good. But yeah, it would have been interesting how they decided to do that.
That's some good points that you guys are making. And Channing, you made a really good point, which brings me to my next question about like how the internet would have done Shawn in. Because one of my questions was, what I noticed is like I know a lot of the reason why like Shawn wrestled when he came back. Well, I think it was like 2002, and like he kept wrestling or whatever, and then he stopped, and then he popped in here and there, or whatever. But like I know one of the main drivers for that was because he had to retire. Now I think about a person who doesn't have to retire. Does he leave earlier? And like, what makes him leave? Like, that's my question. Like for me, I started to ask that question because I'm like, when Shawn came back, a lot of his motivation for wrestling was for a different thing. Like he was living a whole different life now. Like, man found God, like he's completely different. Like bro, like he went from, getting whooped by people in bars, whatever to, he had the church every Sunday. So like, I'm thinking about like, what if that person who, didn't get his back broken or whatever and, not necessarily broken, but his back isn't injured to the point where he needs to retire and he can just keep going. Like, what does that person grow into? Like, and I think, Shannon, you made a good point where you're saying, like, the internet might take him out. I think that's a really, really good point because if you look at the way that WWE was moving, like, around it, and this is funny, and this is probably contributed to why I might have stopped watching it because I might have picked up on this. It's like that mid to late 2000s, you see them get more PC or whatever.
Yeah.
So like I think about Shawn, and if he grows naturally, does he grow up enough in time for that? Like, does he miss it or whatever? Because like I think you made a great point. Maybe it catches up with him, and the internet that at that point. Like the WWE can't ignore it. Like the internet makes noise and it's not as close to where it is now. But back then they were like, oh, okay, it's not just like, some people, some randos on a couch, just like slouch like the guy from South Park on a message board or whatever. It's nothing like that. These are like people who are affecting our bottom line. Like, and I know this because I know people who were like, had bought shares in WWE back when we were in like middle school and stuff like that. Like people who were fans. So like these people were affecting them. So like, what do you guys think? Like, would he have grown into it? Like, would he have been like kind of like a Randy Orton / Triple H where he finds different ways to stick around?
I think what happens, which would have been interesting, because I think what you would have had is that like him and Triple H would have had to, of course, separate, but almost like follow similar paths. Where I think you would have had to have given Shawn Michaels maybe not an understudy, but like someone who like could anchor him in modern times. Because like Triple H had Evolution, and then he had all these feuds with like John Cena to anchor him into like, even if you knew Triple H from like, Hunter Hearst Helmsley days, you now know him as the Game King of Kings because of all these feuds he's having now. I think
Yeah.
Shawn Michaels would have needed someone. It could have even been like an Eddie Guerrero, where it's like this is the feud that anchors him in the 2000s, or you have someone coming up underneath him, like obviously like there's the Hardy Boys, that's the thing. But like if maybe Jeff goes, when he goes single, Shawn is like in his corner, just like talking to him, just like, like I've been there before. I understand what's like being an underdog. And like that's kind of their thing where like it's kind of like a father-son dynamic. Then, Shawn turns on him because of the spotlight. And like that is their thing. I think that's really what Shawn would have needed because like I said, I think what happens a lot of times with Shawn is that like he comes back, gets a pop, it's like cool to see him there, but then he starts talking and it gets kind of like disconnected from like what's actually going. Because even with some of the NXT stuff, like you watch the pre-show and it's like, have you ever actually watched NXT? It's like, I know you know who Adam Cole is, but like, have you actually like watched him wrestle? Because what you're talking about is not related to what he does. And so I think that's what would have had to happen in like real time, is that like he would have stayed around because he had this compelling story. And then, like you said, he probably would have left and then, done like a, Legends tour where he'll come back every now and again. And like, I know he says he doesn't do that now, but like, so with the Saudi show, like you kind of played your hand about you do have a price. It's probably a lot of money, but you have a price. So like, you will come back. And so it's just been a matter of figuring out like, okay, so we run back Triple H Michaels one more time. We run back Randy Michaels, we throw him in there with Bryan, or my personal favorite Cole, who I think is everything HBK can do, but more personally. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I'm thinking about HBK's career, like from what I watched, I saw him hold one world title, and it wasn't even that long. He was a tag team champion with John Cena when they were about to feud for the WWE title at WrestleMania 23, I believe they fought at. But like, Shawn wasn't really holding belts. So, him picking up titles in this last 15, 20 years clearly wasn't what they were trying to do. But I'm trying to think of like feuds he had that were really.
They faced the Spirit Squad a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I was looking at some of his matches. There was like a year span where him and Triple H had a lot of matches with the Spirit Squad.
It was weird. I remember I was like, this is weird. Okay, now this is weird.
It's like the 5th time you faced him. It's not entertaining.
Yeah, so I think, and I'm thinking like he had the Jericho feud that I referred to already, the Batista feud, the Undertaker feud for 2 years, the JBL feud, which was cool, and JBL put a bounty on his head or something like that. Oh no, it was he was working for JBL. The Cena feud for the title, obviously, but like I'm trying to think like, and I really enjoyed Shawn's work, but I can't think of any feuds that really were like, when I look back on the last decade, 2 decades of wrestling, like Shawn doesn't pop up in my head aside from Undertaker as feuds that he had. So it's like, damn, did this time off in the Attitude Era / Ruthless Aggression when his back was hurting, like, was that a benefit? Like, would he have fit? Was there anything that he would have been able to do then that he hasn't done, like, beyond then? Like, was there anything interesting for him to do? Like, I'm really trying to think, because this is my personal experience as well. Again, like, Shawn was just an interesting tweener for me.
I think with with Shawn, kind of like you see with a lot of this Brett stuff, I think and this is again a Twitter push thing as well, like what would have probably happened is that to keep Shawn relevant, there would have probably been some backstage heat with like a real life feud that like people picked up on. It was like, oh, like Shawn Michaels and AJ Styles just really do not get along. Like they really like hate each other. And then that is why he's still relevant. Because I feel like with a lot of his feud, even with like Diesel and like some of the NWO stuff, a lot of what is interesting about the feuds is like the real life stuff. Like you said, like, oh, he's really about to retire. Like that's part of why this is interesting. Or like, oh, him and Brett really just don't like each other. Or like Scott Hall's really about to go to WCW. And like, so what makes it interesting is like the real world implications. So I think that's kind of what Shawn would have had to bring in, because his character is so larger than life. It's hard to like ground it in like because I think it's the Masked Man Show, another podcast I listen to about wrestling. But like, part of the stories is that you kind of have to explain why, even if it's like the Undertaker and Kane, supposedly like a zombie warrior and a demon from hell. Why did these two people decide to like handle their differences inside of a wrestling ring? Like what is the reason that they're actually like physically like fighting about it and not like battling on the seventh realm of like the, you know, a star or something? And so that would have been Shawn Michaels' thing, is that like, yeah, he actually hates this person and that's why they're wrestling. Because like, yeah, it's funny that like he feels disrespected, he's the Heartbreak Kid, whatever. But no, it really is like, oh, they just don't get along. And that's why it's interesting that they're about to fight.
And you know what I'm starting to realize? Like, both of you guys, like, things that you have said have brought me to this point. I think what makes Shawn Michaels interesting is his opponent. Like, and not to say that, like, Shawn Michaels isn't interesting at all. It's just that, like, and sometimes he'll outshine the opponent, you know, if the opponent is good or whatever. It's just that, like, his greatness, it needs to be brought out by a good compliment. And I think Shannon, you made a good suggestion that I personally wanted to see, and I was looking this up to see, you know, if they had ever had, you know, any matches or anything like that, and I don't think they have. If I missed it, then any historians, please forgive me. But Eddie and Shawn would have been so great over a long period of time.
That's a lot of juice, man. That's a lot of juice in one match, boy.
Man, that's all that like with Eddie's ability to just like, because with Eddie's ability to piss people off, like he was so good at playing the character. I was like, oh no, you can do this in real life. Like I know you can do this in real life. And then like and I feel like Eddie, because I've gone back and I've, you know, just like listened to some stuff that people have to say about how he was as a wrestler, how dedicated he was, and how much he was dedicated to like character and like all the things he knew and he would like teach people, and how like wise he was with stuff like that, and how much he would be kind of like a coach at times or whatever. I can imagine if Eddie really wanted that thing with Shawn, like if Eddie got a chance to, you know, have a rivalry with Shawn and wanted that to be a thing, Eddie might have just pissed him off in real life just to get some good reaction and think about how, oh my gosh, like that's, and another man, that would have been amazing. That's just like something I just wish could have happened. Again, R.I.P. to God, Eddie. And another one I think is what we didn't get to see, and I think this kind of kept this, honestly, Triple H still plays into this now with Stephanie or whatever. We never got to see Shawn have a like get really tumultuous and like long and like different kind of like phases of a relationship with Vince the same way that Triple H got that. Yeah. Like, because there was a point, and I had forgot about this until I had like looked back into it, where after Shawn broke his back, he kind of couldn't stay away. And a couple months after like he was already off, he like I think it was like November of like '99 or whatever, he just came and sat, you know, the commentator. And I remember watching the episode recently, and I was like, oh, I wonder if he's gonna do anything. And he was really just talking the whole time, and I was like, man, this guy misses it or whatever. And then like so much so that at one point he was like, you know, the corporate commissioner. He was like in the corporation or whatever.
Oh yeah. Like, yeah, Raw, and commissioner. Yeah, I remember that.
Exactly. And like, and I think about that, and I'm like, if Shawn was wrestling, that would have never happened. Like that, there's no way that would have never happened. And imagine how different the relationship would have been, because like Vince at that time too, his ego was growing crazy. So I think about a Shawn with a crazy ego, and if you translate that to on screen, oh my gosh, like what do you get? Because like we know some of the best promos are like kind of shoots or whatever. So like, man, like that just would have been amazing. So I just think about stuff like that, how great that would have been. And
think about it too, like we got the Vince Shawn feud in like 06 when it was Shawn and God versus Vince and Shane. Like imagine doing that early. Younger Shawn, a younger Shane. You don't need God. You could do Shawn and whoever. Like that probably would be nuts.
Because of all the people that like Vince had involved. Like once his ego got crazy, he was just messing with everybody in the company. So like kind of Shawn being interweaved with that, like Triple H was, like Triple H bumped heads with, like not bumped heads backstage, but bumped heads as a character on screen with a lot of people just being a part of that McMahon Helmsley faction. Like just being that put him in a lot of places. If Shawn stays, maybe he also develops a relationship with McMahon. You know,
corporate Shawn, corporate Michaels. I like it.
Man, it would be crazy. Or like, you know, going completely, like he finds like a new character. Like I think about these things because I'm thinking like you guys did make some good points. he's not great at not being a heel. I think part of that reason is because he doesn't lean into enough on screen. I don't think he leans into enough the sadness of, like of his real life or whatever, because he alludes to it. And then he's like, things bad happen to me, sad face or whatever. It's like, no, get into it. Like, say, talk about it. Because when he does make the sad faces, I'm like, that's a good sad face. I just don't care about that sad face because there's nothing attached to it or whatever. But if there was, maybe that's good. Or another possibility I'm thinking of is there is like a third character out there that we don't know, that he develops or whatever. Like, because if you look at somebody like Triple H has gotten to the point now where he gets in the ring and I don't know whose side he's going to be on. Because like, that's just, and like, Edge developed that at one point. Randy Orton's got that now. And that's why I like watching him, because I'm just like, I don't know who this nigga's, like, who's he going to RKO? I don't know. And why does he have a problem with him? And then like when it starts out, I'm like, why do you even have a problem with him? And then he cuts a fire promo and I'm like, wow, that was a really good reason. Like, so, who knows? Like maybe Shawn like can evolve into something like that, but who knows? Like, that's like high hopes kind of stuff. Like speaking of like high hopes and like what didn't happen, we know what did happen. What did happen is Triple H happened. Like Triple H really, really happened. If Shawn stays, how big is Triple H? Like, how big does he really get? Do you think he guys? Do you guys think he gets that big? Like, because a lot happened, and a lot happened because there was no one else there. Like The Rock was so much in his own lane that like you could have The Rock be great at the same time that the game was developing and becoming the game and doing all these amazing things at the same time, because he was just his own entity. Like The Rock was on the level where it was just like an Undertaker and a Mankind, where it's just like it doesn't, like, nothing that's happening around this matters. They're going to just be. But with Triple H, he came out, there's this open field here, there's nobody there anymore, Shawn's gone. What would happen, do you guys think, if Shawn was still there? Does he still want the belts? Does he try to really push Triple H? Because if you think about it, I've been going back and watching this, like the relationship with Shawn and Triple H back then is like, I see Shawn as like, and especially thinking about everything that happened before then, and just the Montreal screw job. Shawn's not a person who seems like he's like willing to like get out of the way for other people. That's just not.
No.
So like if you think about Triple H and like what he becomes, I imagine like a lot of what he learned and like applied came from like Shawn, which is, I can, like, looking back on it now, I see it or whatever. But like, can you have that happen at the same time? Like, who loses? Like, is there a world where Triple H wins? Like, seeing how much range Triple H has now, could he win? What would that look like? What does the rivalry look like now? What do you guys think?
What do you think, Chan?
I think, and I really don't be to rag on Shawn Michaels guy. That's really not how I am most Wednesdays. That's usually a thing I say for Saturdays. But I think Shawn Michaels ends up becoming like, how in like BET movies, there's like the kid who's gonna make it out the hood. Then there's a kid who's like really his friend, but like is really a little too deep in the drug game. And it's like, I know that's your boy, but you gotta cut him loose. I think that's what ends up happening with Shawn and Triple H. Because I don't think it's a scenario where, I don't think Shawn overshadows Triple H, but it's like as soon as Triple H is about to like really bubble up, he has this kind of anchor where it's like Shawn's like, don't forget about me. Because like I said, I don't think it'll be an issue of Shawn's the guy. The issue is that, Triple H is almost like leaving him. And because I just looked it up, Shawn won the WWF/World Heavyweight title 4 times. He was a 5-time tag team and a 3-time intercontinental. So like you said, he's not in the big title picture that often. And so most likely his rivalries are going to be like character story driven, which every 4th time has to be Triple H. And so that means when Triple H is trying to bubble up, it's Michaels, hey, I kind of need you to feud with me so I can stay hot. And I think that's what ends up happening in Triple H, is that like he never gets to ascend because he's always kind of having, not carry Shawn because it's his friend, like he's famous in his own right, but like there's this kind of never-ending saga that like you do need a little bit of that space for it to be like, oh yeah, like Triple H, he was kind of more quiet, but like now that he's getting to do more stuff, he's the king of kings. He has like Stephanie as his heater now, who like is propping him up. Not to say Shawn didn't, but like there was a little bit of like, again, like I said, I always quote things in movies where it's like kid trying to make it out the hood. Then there's a kid who's like a bad influence, but he's real popping in the hood. The hood loves Shawn. But like Hunter is like cool, but like he's really got bigger dreams. But so like when they're in the hood, everyone's like, "Oh, Shawn's here." Da 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 da. But it's like Hunter has bigger aspirations, but he can never get out the hood because in the hood, Shawn's the big deal. But once he gets away from Shawn, he gets to campus. People are like, "Oh, like Hunter's cool. Who is Shawn?" And he becomes in the big man. I think that's what you need Triple H to do. You need Triple H to have understudies. You need Triple H to have feuds against people where he's trying to build up to them. If he's always like having a back and forth with Shawn, you don't have the development, in my opinion.
I like that. Also, I was just picturing you pitch that to that movie to Netflix as you were talking. I was like, wow, okay. I wonder if they're gonna. Dave, what do you think? No.
Writers, we do it all. We don't do just wrestling. But I guess for me, just as someone who has very limited, I guess I want to pose a question to y'all because a lot of interesting points have come up. Like, do you guys feel like this time period that Shawn was hurt? Do you feel like the WWE was missing him? Do you feel like the WWE would have been better with him there, or do you think like it was cool, it was all good? Like, well, what's you guys' take on it looking back?
It transitioned into something better, and I think it's because they had fewer personalities like Shawn Michaels around. When you don't have a Hulk Hogan, a Shawn Michaels, Kevin Nash, Razor Ramon, and like you don't have all those big people, those big-headed people in your company, and all the other people who are developing egos or might already have them or whatever don't have the accolades yet, so they're not willing to kind of like jeopardize themselves because they're chasing after these things so they can become these legends or whatever. At that point, everybody's on your side. Like you got all these hungry people, hence the what develops into the ruthless aggression era. Like all these hungry people or whatever, and no one who's trying to just sit around and be like, I need to, no real divas, whatever. And now that all those people are gone too, like it's very clear that Undertaker runs this locker room and Undertaker's right there with Vince, so everybody's gonna be with Vince. So I think, to answer that question, I think Shawn not being there helped. Actually, it helped create what we see now. It was just one person, I think, who would have been more in the way than helping. But then again, that's me predicting without knowing how somebody's going to really grow.
I think it forces growth. Like you said, when you don't have people who like logistically who are like, oh, I won't work with this guy. I won't drop the title to this guy. You don't have that on the logistics side. But then just like mentally, you have it where it's like, hey, WWF is not going out of business, so one of y'all gonna have to step up. Like, I don't care who it is, but somebody gonna have to get this main event because we're not shutting down. And so it forces that. And I think on the flip side of that, to Shawn's credit, and I always think of this specific moment because it's on Twitter all the time. The Sweet Chin music before Ric Flair, where he's like, "I'm sorry, I love you," and then does it. I think if he could encapsulate that heart and leave some of the break kid, I think that is what would have had more longevity in WWE. Because
wow, you just fired them up.
I
say it again. No, run that back. Run that back. Smack.
Isolate the heart and leave out the break kid.
Come on.
Because I think there is a very earnest character, like you were saying, when he talks about his life and like finding God, or even like when he talks just about like his relationship with Triple H. Like there's some stuff that's like just 100% earnest, or like the click that you could tell like he genuinely cares about these people. He cares about wrestling. He cares about like, no, Ric Flair is my friend. And like on some level, this is a story, but I'm sorry that like this is his last match because he loves this. I love him. And I'm sorry I have to do this to him, but like this is how it goes. I think if he could almost like have become more of an avatar for as a babyface. Again, as a heel, when he's a dick and like I'm just the shit, that's great. But when as a babyface, being like I'm an avatar for almost like wrestling. Like I'm here for the love of the game. Ooh. And like you're disrupting that. That's what bothers me. That like I'm here for the legends and like for the real relationship. And like you think this is just like him against Randy Orton. Be like you're here because your dad. Like you don't. I know your dad. I like was really on the grind with him. Like he loves this. You don't love this the way we love this. I think if he would encapsulate more of that. Yeah. That would have been what gave him the ability to stick around. Because that, while the Ruthless Aggression era is great, sometimes, and even now, I love wrestling now, that's sometimes what you miss is like the real, like, oh, this like meant a lot to these two people. Like this match was like, it's like when like Tommaso Ciampa come back with Gargano. It's like, yeah, I know y'all supposed to be hate each other, but I know at the end of the day, like, y'all are really boys. And like the fact that y'all can really just like get it out of you and like really that's like what it be because to me wrestling at the end of the day is like a superhero story. It's the charm of good over evil. It's about like just the Shakespearean very base level like a story, and I think Shawn was good at that.
I'll say thinking back, I kind of wish Shawn's going out trip he took after losing the Undertaker, I part of me wishes he might have had one more run with Triple H. Like him and Triple H, their last match against each other, I think, was like 2003, 2004, before, Triple H lost to Benoit and then again lost to Batista. Triple H and Shawn didn't have any matches after 2004 with one another. So I think his going out trip, just with everything you said, I think solidifying that heel status, because Triple H, to me, looking at his last run in WWE, he was used to put people over. Like Jeff Hardy, that rivalry he had with Jeff Hardy. Or the Brock Lesnar matches where Brock Lesnar beat him twice. Triple H is really used to put people over. And even Shawn at his veteran status, because I never felt like he really got that babyface moment where he could really prosper. Looking back, his going out, even if the matches with Undertaker were legendary, I think something with Triple H that was more personal, where you could feel that heart, not the heartbreak, just the heart of him. I think that would have been cool. Because Triple H plays a great heel. Triple H brings so much out of people who he's antagonizing and he's established to be evil with. So, I think that would have been really cool. But again, I'm someone looking back a long time ago, a young boy. So,
I think we get one more.
These are all good ideas, man.
I think we get one more Triple H HBK match. Part of this is just, again, fantasy booking what we do, but part of it is I just have this feeling that having spent a long time of my life watching what Vince McMahon does, that when crowds come back, he's gonna when I emptying the clip isn't even a strong enough phrase. It's not even really it doesn't do it justice. This man is going to drop nuclear bombs on people, in my opinion. And I could see him just being anything that you thought could happen, this first crowd mania, I need everything. I need it to be 2 nights, just all main events, just any crazy match you could think of, Rock Roman. I need Triple H HBK. I need Undertaker Sting. I need Goldberg versus, I don't fucking know, Matt Britt. I think he's gonna truly just do anything he can do, just because the AEW crowd has gotten a little out. They've got a little big chested, and I don't think Vince likes that. And so I think once he has the ability to really flex his crowd, when I get into my duffel, I know you got Cody, you got Brian Cage, and that's cute. But when I really get into my duffel, skeletons of niggas who owe me favors, because I know Vince got people who owe him favors. You can't tell me that Vince don't got some dirt on The Rock. Because whenever Vince needs The Rock said, "I'm here."
Have you ever? Do you listen to the way he talks about the? And I'm bro, I've never
heard for Vince McMahon.
I have never heard a grown man talk so positively about. I've had to lie for my niggas before to their girls. I haven't even talked to them about them like that. The Rock, I'm I don't know. And then I think about it now too. Yeah, because I think about, I'm bro, nah. Because I think about your attitude back then and how you was talking and how you are now or whatever. I'm oh yeah, you was a dog, bro.
Yeah, you was out. He got some backstage footage, and that's you, Dwayne.
Yeah, yep.
And so if you ever want to get buck, I have copies. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but and I think about that too. I think about it's funny that you said that, because I think about it and I just when I saw the literal first thing I saw when I saw the news about the Rock and XFL was, oh shit, what Vince? Okay. Oh,
I'm back.
How does he?
Everything is wrestling, bro. It's all work. This is all at work. We're being worked. He's working ESPN right now. This is the level Vince McMahon works.
He really is.
He's working ESPN right now.
Wow.
He said, "You think I didn't know that? You think I didn't call up HBO Ballers last year? Say, hey, how to rock by the XFL? I started for you. Rock and buy it. I'm here. Y'all not on my level. You don't understand. This is crazy. The Raw is the longest running television show in history.
Yeah, that is
people
true.
Don't give Vince enough credit. Y'all don't even watch the news as much as people watch Raw.
That is true.
For all the bad stuff, and I'm not saying Vince is a good person. I'm not saying any. I'm just saying people really sleep on what he's truly done. He has 3 television shows every week. No one 3
every week,
live every week.
And they are hours long, bro.
3 hours long. That's
and they're live.
7 plus hours of programming every week.
Not including dark matches. That's not including all there's a lot. There's more that goes into the 2 hours that we watch.
Yeah.
Bro, all the like charity work they do alone, that looks like a job. Oh my
Yeah, bro.
gosh.
Or just logistics wise, like sometimes you'll just look at like sets and be like, somebody built this
Bruh.
today. Somebody just put this together. They were in
All
Detroit
of,
last week. Now they're in Columbus today, and they just built this. Like,
Yeah,
all of that to say, we got into some really interesting discussions on the Heartbreak Kid, the Hurtback Kid, HBK, and for me, it doesn't feel like we've reached. I haven't, like, again, someone looking back, like it's really interesting to gauge like what the times would have been like if he was there, if he was there. I think we got a lot of stars that were able to rise up as a result of him not being there, but perhaps he would have been able to accomplish more had he not hurt his back as well. So I think this would be a really interesting topic for the people to kind of get in on. What do you guys think? If you have any final thoughts?
So sorry, my fault. Go ahead, King. Go ahead. I'm gonna let you have that, son.
I was going to talk a little bit of trash about Shawn Michaels there. So, what I would say is that I think Shawn Michaels in aggregate is better as a tag. I think he's better with big men with long hair. Shout out to Diesel. Shout out to Triple H. Shout out to Drew McIntyre in the future. Just playing that there. Got the Claymore. Got the Sweet Chin music. I can see it. I think one thing again I will say about Shawn to his credit is that, like I said, some of those like match of Triple H, the Elimination Chamber match, like if you're really looking for somebody to take some punishment and then bounce back and win,
Man.
that's who you want to see. When he's tuning up that band, it's like, oh yeah, this is gonna connect. Because this is before people super kicked all the time too. That's another thing. Like people have super kick as a transition move now, so it's like doesn't impact you as much. But like when he was doing it, that was the end of the show. And so I do think that he has a lot going for him. If you really like that kind of wrestling, that very dramatic Hulk Hogan, like I'm hulking up, it's really good to watch.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's better when he's a bad guy. It's better when he's pouring beer on him and he's like flicking it off his hair, or like he just like he turns heel. Like his heel turns are very like dramatic. It's always like I turned heel and now I'm like crazy. Like I'm like not have no emotions on my face. Like I super kicked Triple H out the ring and John Cena's like stunned. So those are always good. But like I said, it would have been better if it had a little bit more heart. That's all I ask.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like your point about the super kicks, my childhood won't allow me to enjoy anybody super kicking anymore, because I look at it, I'm just like, you're wasting it. You're wasting. I'm like the child inside of me is like, yeah. I'm like, he's supposed to not get up inside. I'm like, oh gosh, I'm trying to get rid of that.
Talk about power bombs too. Whenever someone power bombs, I'm like, no, this is the end of the match now.
When Keith Lee did the spirit bomb, I was like, if somebody that large did that to me, I don't know if I'd wake up. So what is this? Like, people are kicking out of it? Like, yeah, no, I really like Shawn. And the cool thing is, like, he was only gone 4 years. So the what if isn't like that big of a gap, because he was also like around too. Like, it wasn't like he was like, completely gone, like somewhere where you can't see. It's just that the fans didn't see him. He was there. He was around, so like, who knows? Maybe there's some stuff that like he called in some people who are in certain places that because of him. Like, who knows? Like, that'd be some cool stuff to speculate. Like speculating, what Shawn might have been influencing in the background. But he was like the first wrestler for me that I intimidated. I have a picture at my cousin's house when we were in like Richmond, VA or whatever, and like that's the only pose I'm doing, like a wrestler pose, and it's this Heartbreak Kid, like, because right there it was just like, oh no, I had to, we had to put on for the skinny niggas one time, But that's my guy. I just it would have been interesting to see how different it would have gone. I'm gonna just think about that.
Hey man, that's a great point to stop. I think HBK is a legendary, obviously a legendary performer, Mr. WrestleMania, the icon, someone who we can never not talk about if we talk WWE. So that's Rewriters Room episode 2. Shout out once again to RNC, the A Show Network. Check out the A Show. Check out War Report. Check out Spot Callers. We will be back. Our next episode is going to be real fun. We'll be talking about one of the GOATs of our generation, of the ruthless aggression era and beyond. Yeah, I might be able to figure that out, but it should be a pretty fun time. So for myself, Cece and Chan, Rewriters Room, we out of here.